Okay, hi Fabian. Let's take a look at these essays you've sent us today. Okay, the first one is about money on weddings. Let's see what you said here. In our society, many couples like to extensively celebrate the marriage. Careful with this. You don't really mean the marriage because that's the entire duration that two people are legally bound together. That's not what we're celebrating, but we're celebrating the day when they are officially wedded. Okay, so let's try it again. In our society, many couples like to extensively celebrate their wedding in a fashion that consumes lots of money, yet other people would rather keep the expenses to a low level. Both viewpoints will be discussed here in argumentative support from research by the UK government, and an example from the high society will be given. Get rid of the here. Okay, fine, but you never really told us your opinion. Remember, it asks you very clearly, do the benefits outweigh the disadvantages? So you really need to address this in your introduction, especially if you're aiming for a 7 and above. Okay, so whatever the question here, whatever the command is, do make sure that you address it in your introduction. Obviously, a wedding is a quite special event, and despite the fact that the divorce rate has increased dramatically over the past decades, for many people, it still happens only once in a lifetime. Hence, they are also often willing to spend a lot of money in order to celebrate with many friends and probably with a family, including distant relatives. This often results in big gatherings, of which the positive social effects cannot be overstated. Many people come together so that pre-existing relationships can be strengthened and new bonds established. In a survey from the UK government in 2015, retired people were asked which events in their life would have had the biggest impact on their relationships to friends and relatives, and weddings were, get rid of the H, under the first four mentioned events on the list. Therefore, in the eyes of many people, expensive weddings are regarded to be worth their money in terms of an investment in sustaining old or building new connections. Okay, this is lovely. You've got some complex sentences here that I could read, and it wasn't too difficult to do it. You did them successfully. My one concern is with the content. Have you really hammered home why one must spend a lot of money on this? And I don't really feel like you did. In other words, you have to show me. I understand that a wedding is maybe one of the top 4 things in a person's life. I got all of that. But what you didn't explain to us is why it is so important to spend. Where's the advantage to spending a lot of money? Okay, so you didn't really make it entirely clear why an expensive wedding has benefits. Okay, there's no question about whether having a wedding with your relatives and friends is beneficial, but what you need to prove to us here is why spending a lot of money doing this has benefits. I hope you can see the difference here. You kind of stated it, but it's not really straightforward. At least not enough to say, yeah, okay, you've answered the question. Also, another thing that I want to point your attention to is this. Do the benefits of this outweigh the disadvantages? So even if we give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you did talk about the benefits to this, well, you really only talked about one, okay? Just the fact that pre-existing relationships are strengthened when you have an expensive wedding, okay? I mean, I see one benefit essentially, and I can't really say, oh, okay, well, here are Fabian's benefits, plural. Here's 1, here's 2. I didn't really see that. So if you believe that you included 2 benefits, then when the examiner is done with this paragraph, the examiner should be able to say to you, okay, these are the 2 benefits, A and B. All right, having read this paragraph, I cannot really pinpoint 2. I can maybe pinpoint 1, but again, as I said before, you didn't really show me why that in order to have a good wedding that strengthens relationships, we have to spend a lot of money, and how just spending money on this is beneficial. All right. I hope I'm not too redundant. I hope you understand what I mean. I'm just not really sure that I'm making myself clear. So if I have or if I have not, please respond in your next email. Okay, let's move on. Nonetheless, the money being spent with a T on a wedding could also be spent with a T in a way that would benefit even more people. For example, the marriage, lowercase m, of the famous actor couple Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, who even broke up in the meantime, produced estimated costs of about $7 million. This huge amount of money could have been spent, for example, as a donation to the poor or underprivileged people. Okay, again, one reason, okay, that the money could be better spent someplace else. So you're basically critiquing this idea, but it's not necessarily disadvantages, okay? Also, what could you have said for disadvantage? Maybe you could say that a lot of people go into debt trying to have such an expensive wedding, and maybe, you know, some of their life goals are put on hold because they put this spending of lots of money as a priority, and therefore other life priorities like buying a house, maybe continuing education and such, are put on hold in order to have such an expensive wedding. Okay, so maybe people go into debt, maybe people aren't able to pay their debt. So some of these are really some of the disadvantages of weddings, okay, rather than just saying you know, oh well, you could have spent this money on other things. I'm not arguing with this, it's okay, but again, I want you to remember you still need to provide more than one disadvantage here. In conclusion, considering the question how much a wedding should cost, I would try to find a compromise. I truly support the idea of socially connecting celebrations, but I would try to simplify the event in order to save money, for example, by letting the guests contribute with food to the buffet and not with gifts for the couple. By doing so, the benefits of this kind of happening can be enjoyed, as well as money being saved and eventually spent usefully elsewhere. All right, that's fine. Remember, though, that you are supposed to make this clear in the beginning because they asked you straightforward, do the benefits outweigh the disadvantages? So keep that in mind as well. All right, now let's take a look at this pie chart. Okay, capitalize your G here. The pie chart illustrates how popular subjects this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7? Where's chemistry? I thought there was chemistry in this as well. All right, perhaps there wasn't. In German schools as well. Oh, is this supposed to be? All right, I'm looking for it doesn't look like it's going to come up. I think it looks like you tried to include it, but for some reason it didn't, it won't show up. Okay, it's very helpful when you can include the image. Maybe you could include it as an attachment, but for some reason it won't open. All right, it is shown that the 4 subjects, this, and this, shared roughly the same rate of popularity of about 20% each, followed by biology and geography, with also comparable rates in popularity of 6 to 7%. Fine. Don't start your sentence with and. Avoid that, please. So finally, comma, IT was the least liked topic with a rate of only half that of biology or geography and only a third of PE. Fine. Furthermore, the graph clearly shows that the group of natural sciences, such as biology, physics, maths, and geography, accounted for about 50% of all subjects when pupils were, without the H, asked about their favorite subject. Roughly about 40% of all students chose the subjects with great emphasis on logic, such as maths, physics, and IT as their favorite ones. Okay, so this is clearly one of those charts where there's really not a lot to talk about, so you really have to extend your answer by making comparisons more relevant and so forth. This is fine. I think you did a nice job. Just be careful with a little bit of your grammar. I could basically envision what you were looking at, even though I wasn't able to refer to the graph. So I think you did a fine job here. Just be careful with some of that grammar. Okay? So nice job here overall. No real issues, no real complaints. You had an overview. You gave some statistics. It's fine. You stretched it out. I would want to check on your word count. I would say it was definitely over 150 words. That's how it felt, at least. But I would be curious how it did fare in reality. Okay, so go ahead and correct these essays. Return them back to as corrected. Add to your error correction list. And let's see another set from you. Okay, Fabian? Good job. And let's meet back here with your next set. Good job.